Hi, welcome to 2020 Tasty Treats with GourmetQuilter. I'm Susan Clare, GourmetQuilter, and I just would like to just say that we're working on our Leftovers Pantry. So we're going through, we've done a whole lot of things. It's a 20-part series, we're up to part 12. And we've made our pantry, we've labelled everything, whether it be drawers or bins or bags or whatever it is that we're comfortable doing. And we've been busy cutting strips and putting them in our pantry, and then making some other units from our pantry so that we've got things to draw on for some of the uses that we can put our pantry to. So starting with leftovers from other projects, and so you get a multiple range of colours. You don't necessarily get lots of the same colour, and so it goes on, or not the same fabric. You might have similar colours that you can just put them in. So you end up with a scrappy type quilt basically. There are some notes available on GourmetQuilter.com if you're interested, with some information on the website there on the Tasty Treats Leftovers Pantry. Other than that, as I mentioned, we've been very busy making all sorts of units. So we've done some ideas using Unit 1. Today we're doing some ideas using Unit 2. So Unit 2 was a 9-patch. We did them in a variety of sizes. There's some up behind me here. And so I was just going to make a few suggestions of things you might do, but I'm quite sure you can think of things all by yourself. So you might do something, so there's a little idea number 1 here. It's simply a 9-patch here with an alternating square of the same size as the 9-patch. And you could do a whole quilt. You could just do it in rows like that, and all different colours, and that can look really fun. So it doesn't have to be particularly organised colour-wise. You might do the same thing and make a really giant 9-patch. Like I've shown here. So with one of our larger sizes, it's not the largest one I made, but a larger size like this, you can make 9 patches quick and easy, and you could end up, if you happen to have also some fat quarters that you'd like to use up, you could alternate them, as I've shown here, with a large square. So the same concept as we're doing here, with the square the same size as the 9-patch, but these are a little bit larger than most of our leftovers. But it fits a fat quarter really nicely. So you may have some of those that you want to use up. So I'll just quickly show you how you might cut a square. So what I've ended up using here, I started out with 6-inch squares. So my actual block that I've got here now measures 17 inches, because with the seam allowance gone and all the rest of it. So we can get a 17-inch square out of a fat quarter, because our fat quarters are 18 inches cut that way, and then half the width of the fabric, which is a little bit more, probably 21 or so inches. So we can get a 17-inch square out of a fat quarter. So you might want to have a little go at cutting those, and you might think, well, how will I cut a 17-inch square? So if you're not too sure, I can show you here. So this is a fat quarter that I've got, and we all collect fat quarters and don't always know what we're going to do with them, so it may be an option for some of those. So I'm just going to fold it in the moment with the selvage to one side. I'm going to trim the selvage off. So I'm going to use my board for this sort of measuring. This works really well with the board, because it's usually more than we've got in the way of the ruler, or you may have a longer ruler, but it works either way really well with the board. So I'm going to come along. I want it 17 inches, so I'm going to come along to the 17 inch. So I've got it lined up on number 1 here. So wherever you are, you've got to come along 17 inches to do it this size. And I'm just going to slice it off at 17 inches. So now, of course, I've got a nice piece that I can cut into a fitted size for my pantry. So we're not entirely not using the pantry, we're filling the pantry. So now I've got my width right, but I haven't cut the other measurement yet. So now I'm going to fold it the other way, so that the 2 edges I've just cut are sitting together, and along here. And now I'm just going to trim it the other way. So you should have, because it starts out at 18 inches as a fat quarter, you should have plenty to be able to trim at the 17 inches. So I'm going to trim off one end first, and then come along again to the 17. And it's just some little trimmings off there that we don't need. And here is my square. So I now have a square that is the right size to alternate with something like a large 9 patch there, and if we had 4 of those and 5 of those, we can make a super quick upsized 9 patch quilt. And I have put a top together here doing exactly that with those sizes. I found 4 flat quarters and I found lots of squares of that size in my pantry, and so this simply quilted and bound would make a quick fun quilt. You could put borders on if you wanted to make it a little bit larger, but for me I would simply quilt that and bind it, and you've got an instant lap quilt, whatever it is that you want to do with it. Or you could add another row and make it more rectangular if that's what you wanted, but something kind of large, quick and easy is always a good thing, particularly when it comes out of our leftovers. And just using 4 fat quarters, which we may also have already sitting in another part of our pantry, not the leftovers necessarily. So I just thought I'd quickly run through that idea of upsizing, using some of the larger squares to make a 9 patch, using 9 patches, all about 9 patches today. So that was that, and for the cutting, I find that definitely using my board is the easy answer when I'm cutting something larger like that, so that I can just use a regular ruler and cutter and make that. So that was that idea that we've gone through there, and I think that's a really fun idea. Then you might want to make something like this joined up together to make a block in itself rather than just individual pieces going across. And if you were to do something like that, this idea shows you that if you've got them, it's just those continuously, but you're turning one of them around so that it ends up, so it's that turned, alternated all the way, and that will give you a sort of a chain type effect with your fabric colours and things. Or you could just alternate a block like this with a plain square again, and you end up with something like that. So there's lots of just different looks of things. If you've got some larger pieces of fabric that you're trying to use up and you're wanting to make some fairly quick quilts, a lot of these will work because you can just draw from your leftovers and maybe add another fabric or something like that. Then of course we can do even more. So we might use some, we're still working with 9 patches because the whole block is actually a 9 patch because we've got 3 across by 3 down. So you could make a block that looks something like this. So I've just used the small size 9 patches here, and I've used 3 of those, and then just some squares again of the same size to make a block like that. And the same thing, if we're going to be making them, you could make as many as you need for your quilt. And of course it works with any size because it's this size and squares that are the same as that. So any size will work. And again, if you alternate them and turn them around, so if you keep an eye on your colours so that they're kind of opposite, so that where they meet they would intersect, or so you don't want 2 blues that are the same sitting together, so you want to be able to turn the blocks, and so then you need opposites being a little bit different to be able to do that, and you can form a very nice design like that. And the same thing, you could use something like this but alternate it with just a regular 9 patch of the same size, and you can end up with this sort of diagonal, these little diagonals that would form with this little chain going through on the diagonal there, but with the 9 patches in between. Really colourful, really fun to make. None of these things are particularly hard, and they're so good for just using up that leftovers pantry. How amazing is that? So that was just some ideas of what you might do with the Unit 2, the 9 patch from your pantry. I'm sure you've got lots of other ideas. It really is endless what you can do, but just 9 patches and some other squares. So not mixing units at this stage, we're simply using the 9 patch unit in this particular one, just to make us think a little bit. Sometimes we think, oh, we've got to do this and we've got to do that, and we don't. We can just make 9 patches from our pantry and have a huge amount of fun with just those. So I just wanted to give you those ideas, and I will see you again with idea number 13 from the Leftovers Pantry.